All right. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So my name is Suresh Done. Welcome to the webinar, Innovation by Design. So basically, what this webinar is about is the innovation has to be designed, right? It has to be planned. So you can't expect the innovation to come by accident, right? So how do we plan this, the innovation, and how do we measure the innovation, right? So what are the aspects and the innovation framework itself, what we had developed at SNA Technologies. So that is what I'm going to discuss in this webinar. Myself, I'm the founder of the SNA Technologies, and I'm in the industry for about 33 years. I'm primarily an enterprise architect, so I practice the enterprise architecture. I consult, I train, and I had even authored two books. One is TOGAF Simplified, and the other one is the Architecting Enterprise Transformations. And I worked across the globe. So I worked with many organizations, across all the continents, right? And across various industries, automotive, healthcare, retail, banking, so several industries. Okay, and also I'm the founder and chairperson of the Association of Enterprise Architects Michigan chapter. So we are regenerating this chapter. So if anyone is interested in joining this chapter, please reach me out. I will give you my contact info at the end of the presentation. Okay. Right. So let me start off on a jovial note. So if you had seen this, so I get some WhatsApp messages, right? So especially in India, there are a lot of WhatsApp messages coming in. This is one of the picture that I got in the WhatsApp. So as you see, it's a function hall, right? And there are taps to wash your hands and all, in any typical Indian function halls, right? So now, where do you see the taps? Usually, the tap is at this end, right? And the tap will be towards you, right? And to wash the hand, right? So I think what is happening is here, when the tap is on this side, the water is spilling out, and the people who are washing the hands are getting wet. So that's the problem, right? So someone has identified that problem, and they wanted to solve that problem, right? So the solution that they got is, now why don't we turn this solution on the other side, right? So now the water, the faucet is this side, and now you're washing your hand, and you're not getting wet. But did it solve the whole problem? Right? Probably not. Right? So there are many other aspects to this problem. Right? So the usability, right? The ease of use, right? So there are many other things that you have to look at when you're identifying a problem. So in this case, if you ask yourself, like, did we identify the problem? Probably yes. Did we solve the problem? Did we identify the solution? Probably yes, right? But did that problem solve and that solution solve the problem completely? Probably not, right? So when you're identifying a solution, when you're coming up with some innovation, we need to have a systems thinking, right? So what is systems thinking? So you need to look at the problem in a holistic manner, right? From all aspects, and then try to solve that problem rather than giving a point-based solutions, right? So right now, the whole world is on a innovation freak, right? So everyone wants to come up with some innovations, right? But some of the innovations that I see in the industry are point-based solutions. They are not holistic. They are not solving the whole problem, right? So we are not looking at all the aspects of the problem from all the perspectives, right? So providing a point-based solution may serve the purpose in a short run, but in a long run, it's not solving the problem. It's not serving the purpose. So that's why if you're an architect, that systems thinking is very important for you, right? So you need to have that systems thinking, and we need to solve the problems holistically rather than a point-based solution. Okay, so that's the first thing that I want to about. Right? Now, let's understand the areas of innovation. So innovation can be from a management development perspective, from a strategy development perspective, employer, product or service, process, right? Tools or technologies, supplier development, market development, distribution, brand, business model itself, right? There are many areas of innovation that you can think of. Right, so these are probably some of the things that I had put out. There may be many other innovations that you can think of, right? So I'm not, I don't have the space to put everything, right? Or even if I put everything, there may be some other innovations that might be coming out. So I didn't want to put all these innovations, but these are some of the areas that you can think of, right? Now, these are some of the categories of innovation, right? So I would like to categorize the innovations into 4 categories. One is radical, which means, so if you take these as the dimensions, right? So dimensions of the innovations. So if you are innovating more in more than 2 dimensions, right? So I would say it's a radical innovation, right? So now let's say you're innovating only on 1 dimension and rest are all incremental improvements, then I would call it as a semi-radical, right? And if you are innovating very minor, changes here and there, right? So not much, but you are achieving some cost efficiency or whatnot, right? So then I would call that as a moderate innovation, right? And if you are just, small, minor, incremental improvements to your process or product or, of any one of those dimensions, right? So then I would say it's more of an incremental innovation. Okay, so these are the, 4 broad categories of innovation that you can think of, right? So that's what I would like to categorize. Okay, now there could be, so if you look at the innovations, right? So based on the strategic focus and versus the number of innovations, right? So if the innovation is less on the strategic focus, right? So we call it as serendipitous innovation or accidental innovation, right? So classic example of accidental innovation is, I don't know if you are familiar with this 3M, right? When they developed this, what do you call, the post-it sheet, right? The post-it paper, right? So, that was an accidental innovation. So they were trying some glue formulas and, and that one glue formula failed and it was not sticking well, right? So then they got the idea, now how do we use this one, right? So the glue that doesn't stick well. Then they came up with these sticky notes and, it was a major success, right? But you can't expect, accidental innovations all the time. So as I said, you have to plan your innovation, right? So even though, you start off with less planned innovation, but in due course of time, you should try to increase your planned innovation, right? And there should be a balance between these two, right? So again, I don't know how much of accidental innovations that you can expect. That can expect very rarely. But so I would say you should focus more on the planned innovation. So you have to plan for the innovations, right? So Thomas Alva Edison, so he invented probably 1,000 plus, right? So all those were planned. So he worked towards those innovations and ultimately, got those innovations. Right? So that's why every organization should plan for their innovation. So what you are trying to do, what you are trying to accomplish, right? And what is the best way or the new way of doing things. So when you plan for something, then you get better innovations, and then you will be better off in rolling out those innovations as well. Okay, so there should be a balance of the innovations. Okay? Now, so these are some of the attributes of the innovation. So what we have to see, what we have to look at, right? So first we have to aspire, right, for the new innovations. So did you regard innovation-led growth as critical within your organizations, right? So do you have cascaded targets that reflect this? So what are you aspiring for, right? So whether you have a clear vision of what the innovation has to be, right? So you need to aspire for those innovations. And then you have to choose the right innovations, right? So you have to, identify a rich, balanced portfolio of innovations, right? So some radical, some semi-radical, some moderate, and some incremental. So you have to have a rich blend of innovations within the organization, right? And how you are discovering your innovations. So do you have a differentiated business or market or technology insights? And whether you're identifying the right innovations that can give you better value to the organizations, right? And how you are evolving your innovations, right? So do you create new business models out of these innovations? Are you using new technologies to grow your organization astronomically, right? So you have to look at all those things that can bring new innovations, right? And by the way, you can post your questions while you're going through this, right? In fact, if you know any of the more accidental innovations that you know, so try to put those things in the chat. Okay. And then accelerate, right? So how you beat your competition, right? So how you accelerate your innovations quickly and effectively, right? And how do you scale your innovations, right? So do you launch innovations at the right scale? As the demand goes up, right? Are you able to scale up, right? And bring more innovations within your organization and extend, right? So do you win by creating and capitalizing external networks, right? And how do you mobilize your team, right? Your people, how do you motivate your people, right? And bring the right innovations within the organizations. Okay, so these are the attributes that I would say that you can think of when you're bringing the right innovations within the organization. Okay? Now, to do all these things, right, to identify the right innovations, to plan for your innovations, and to do the innovations in a right way, you need a framework, right? So I had come up with an innovation framework so that can help you to guide the organizations on how to bring the right innovations within the organization, right? So I came up with 7 attributes, right? So one is the purpose, and the second one is the principles, and the strategy, the culture, and the capacity, approach, and the metrics, right? So I'll go through these attributes of these components of the framework, and then I'll explain what we need to do in each aspect, right? So when you want to innovate, first thing that you need is the purpose. You need to understand the purpose, the why, right? And also you have to define your vision, right? So I see most often in most of the organizations, people get confused with the mission and vision, right? So they think that both are the same. They are not. right? Mission is the purpose, is the why, right? So vision tells you now where you want to be, right? Where you are and where you want to be, right? And most often I see that people miss the mission, the why part of the purpose. They think that if I come up with a vision, I'm okay, right? So it's like, where you want to go, right? So you had gone to some place. So you came up with a vision, means you know where you want to go, right? But you don't know the purpose. So you might have reached the point, your target, but if you don't know your purpose, you don't know why you're there yet, first of all, right? So that's why it is important to define the mission, right? The purpose, and then you come up with your vision. So then it will be more meaningful. So you know why you want to go there, and now where you want to go. Okay, and also you have to establish the key business objectives, right? So what you are trying to accomplish. So usually you define your key business objectives using SMART, right? Specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time bound. Okay, and and most often you have to align with the business strategy, not only with the business strategy, with all technology strategy, any other strategies as well, right? So it's not, innovation should not be done in isolation. So you have to align with all the strategies that you have within the organization, and engaging the stakeholders, right? So you have to engage the stakeholders, so you have to involve the stakeholders. Otherwise, if you do your innovation in a research laboratory without understanding your stakeholders, their requirements, the innovation that you come up may not be that good, right? And customer centricity is very important, right? Because you need to understand the customer, right, well, before you come up with an innovation. And then you have to define the OKRs, right? The objectives and the key results, right? So what are your objectives and what is the result you are expecting from the innovation? Okay, so this is very important. So defining the purpose is very important, and it's the first thing that you need to do when you're innovating. Okay, now the second component that you need to innovate is the principles, right? So principles guide the organization to do the right innovations within the organizations, right? So if you have right principles, you take right decisions, you can prioritize well, right? So principles guide the organizations to come up with the right innovations. Okay, now there are some principles in the industry, especially there is one standard, ISO standard for innovation, 56002, right? So in that, they came up with some 8 principles. Okay, so realization of the added value. So what value you are providing, right? Always think of the value that you are giving, right? You're getting out of that innovation. And future focused leaders. So you need to have good leaders who are forward thinkers, right? Who have some foresight, right? So where they want to take the organization, right? And the strategic direction is another principle, right? So whatever the innovation that you're doing should be based on your strategies, right? And then the fourth one is the culture. So we need to have a right culture within the organization to the innovations and exploiting the insights. So what are the innovations that we have within the organization or outside the organization, and what new things we can bring. And managing the uncertainty, because innovation is new, right? So when you're when you're doing something new, there is always uncertainty, there is always a risk, right? So we need to manage that risk, that uncertainty. And adaptability, right? So how you are adapting to the market conditions or the technologies, emerging technologies and all. And then the systems approach, that's the systems thinking that I told you just now. Okay, so these are the 8 principles given by ISO. And don't know if anyone is familiar with the TRIZ methodology. So there is a methodology for innovation called TRIZ, right? It's a technology innovation methodology, and this methodology is more suitable for the product development, manufacturing, especially manufacturing and all. So they have about 40 principles, right? And they had also identified some 39 parameters. Now, depending on what parameters you are using for your innovation, right? They have a mapping, right? So if you are using these two parameters, right, these are the principles that you can apply. So based on that, you can come up with a new innovation. So that's a very, intensive, exhaustive methodology to come up with the innovation, especially for product innovation, right? So it may not be applicable for other innovations, but for product innovations, definitely it's a very good methodology that you can use. Okay, so these principles guide you to establish the right the innovations, to come up with the right innovations within the organizations. And the next component is the strategy, right? As I said, your innovation strategy should be based on all the other strategies, right? So business strategy, technology strategy, product strategy, service strategy, right? Business model, or any other strategy, right, that you can think of. Right, so so innovation strategy should not come from isolation, right? In isolation, so it should be in conjunction with all the other strategies within the organization. Okay, now how do we come up with the strategy, right? So I told you these are some of the strategies that you can think of, right? These are some of the dimensions of the innovation, right? Now, first of all, based on your business strategy or technology strategy or whatever the other strategies, so first identify which one you want to innovate, right? So what do you want to innovate, right? Then again, so for all these dimensions, think of whether it is a radical innovation or whether you want to come up with a semi-radical or a moderate innovation or an incremental innovation, right? That gives you now what type of innovations that you want to bring, right? So let's say you want to come up with a new product, right? And a very radical product that is not there at all in the industry, right? So then the way that you think should be entirely different, right? So you should not look at what existing products we have, right? If you look at what existing products we have, then it will be an incremental improvement. So you have to come up with totally new product altogether. You have to think new, right? So that dictates what kind of innovations that you can bring within the organizations. Okay, that's one way to look at the strategies. And another way that you can look at the strategies are, these are some of the strategies that you can use. One is an offensive strategy, means it's a radical or disruptive strategy, right? So you're trying to bring something new, whether it is a product or a service or a business model, whatever it is, right? So that's an offensive strategy, a radical. Defensive means incremental improvement. You're not trying to bring any new strategy. You're just trying to come up with some this defensive strategy, right? Incremental improvements. So offensive is more likely these two, right? Radical and semi-radical. I would say if you want to play to win, you focus on these two strategies, right? Radical and semi-radical. And if you're playing not to lose, then you focus on moderate and incremental strategies. Okay? Offensive is play to win, defensive is play not to lose. You can have another licensing strategy, which is what do you say? So let's say you don't have the capacity to innovate, right? So you have someone has innovated, right? They had come up with something new, right? So you know that there is a product or a service that you can use. So what you can do is you can license that product or a service, right? You don't have to innovate, but you license that one, and you develop business on top of that, whatever that product or a service or whatever that innovation is. So that's a licensing strategy. And market creation strategy means you are creating a new market altogether. Okay, so a brand new market, or different geography or whatever it is. And then the Mavericks strategy. Maverick strategy means you are trying to do something, right? Whether a new technology or whatever, that is not only developing your business, right? But it is also killing the competitor's business, right? So that is a Maverick strategy, right? So you're not just looking at the development of your business, but you want to kill the competition as well. And acquisition, right? So if you're acquiring any company that has some new innovations and all, right? So that's another strategy. And acquisition of the personnel. So you're not acquiring a product or a service or an organization, but you're just hiring the people who were involved in other companies, right? So who had done some innovations in other companies. So that's another strategy. Right? So these are the various strategies that you can employ to come up with the innovations. Okay. And so as I said, right, so we have these 4 innovations, right? Radical, semi-radical, moderate, and incremental. So usually radical will have more complexity, will have more risk, it costs you more, right? So it is a risky proposition, basically, but you are willing to take that risk. Right? Semi-radical, little less, right? Not that risky, not that complexity. Maybe it's not that expensive either. So it's a little less than radical, right? So moderate, it is even lesser risk, right? Lesser complex, less expensive, right? So if you are playing not to lose, probably you can go with either this moderate or incremental. It's incremental is even less risky, right? So that is how, so you have to see, do you have the necessary things, right? So do you have the skills? Do you have the financial support, right? So then you can go for either radical or semi-radical. If not, you can focus on incremental or moderate innovations, right? So that's the way that you have to look at. So that helps you bring the right the innovations. Okay, and the next component is the culture, right? So we need to have a right culture. We need to build a right culture within the organization that encourages innovation, right? So when you are innovating without that kind of culture, it is very highly difficult to bring innovations, right? And also you have to give some right incentives, right? And that those incentives need not be monetary mostly, right? So now when you are innovating, right? So the people that innovate may be motivated by monetary benefits at the beginning, but after a certain state, right? So this is the research done by I think MIT and Carnegie Mellon and other organizations. So they all came together and did this experiment. So where they increase the monetary benefit, right? So they increase the pay. So if you do this work, right, this much more work, so you are going to get this incentives, these benefits, this monetary benefit, right? But that didn't motivate the people, right? Especially the knowledge workers, right? So the IT or the technology people or the people working on the innovations, right? So what they found that there are 3 things that motivates the people, right? So it is the autonomy, means you have to give the independence for them to work on, right? And then the mastery, right? So you need to, give them the right skills and everything that they want, right? And then you need to give the purpose, right? So the mission. So I don't know if you had, known about any research laboratories like a Park, right? So from Xerox, Xerox has had a, innovation lab, right? Which is called PALC, Palo Alto Research. C stands for something. Okay. So in that, so all the people, the innovators, they are given complete independence. They are actually even isolated from the normal society, right? So they kind of, they have their own golf course and, everything inside that the park, right? And they had given some purpose. So you need to do this, right? The mission. And they have the, of course, the skills. They are all the, research scientists and all, right? So they have the skills. So they brought so many innovations, right? So if you think of this mouse, right? Mouse came from Park, right? The GUI, graphical user interface, that came from Park, right? Many innovations. Actually, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, they borrowed these innovations from Park, and they made a fortune on their innovations. Okay, and you need to build a culture where the failure is welcomed, right? So you're not discouraging the failure, right? So you have to accept the failure, right? So because it is innovation, it is always risky. We don't know whether we will succeed or not. And you have to use the right language, because if you use a wrong language, that may demotivate the innovators, right? And of course, it is the people who are doing the research and all. So you need to, and also the people who are using the products also are the people. So you have to respect the people, right? And as a leader within the organization, so you have to create a sense of urgency, right? Otherwise, people become lethargic, right? So if the organization is more than 15, 20 years, people tend to become lethargic because it's a mundane task every day, right? So they are seeing everything, same thing, they are doing the same thing over and over again. So unless you create that sense of urgency, hey, if we don't do this, we are going to lose the business, and then, make them focus on new innovations. So come up with something new, right? So how can we increase the business? So you have to create that sense of urgency. And then openness, right? So you should create an open environment where everyone is exchanging their ideas, right? So everyone is heard, right? Otherwise, in a traditional organization, there is a hierarchy, and then the lower level people are not allowed to talk in front of the higher level. So if you have that kind of traditional structures, again, innovation, it's difficult to bring innovation. Okay. And then, so we have to abandon the hierarchies, right? So to have that kind of the culture, so you have to abandon the hierarchies. And then if you build a right team, so there won't be any work-life balance per se, but there will be a work-life merge, meaning, work and life are the same, right? So it's they are always looking to do something, right? So they don't want time off, right? So it's every day, every 24 hours they are willing to work. So you need to have that kind of people, right? And it's not only you're doing whatever you're doing should have a social purpose, right? So it's somewhere linked to the social innovation. Otherwise, there is no meaning for that the innovations. So you have to build that right culture within the organization. And then, so you need to build the capacity to do the innovations, right? So what is that capacity? How do you build that capacity? We have to build that right team, right? With the right skills and all. And also we need to create collaborations and partnerships. That is very important. So most often the innovations may not come internally. It can come from external parties as well. So I don't know if you are familiar with this Procter and Gamble, P&G. So I think A.G. Lafley, the CEO, I think, several years back, I think 80s or 90s. So he said that more than 50% of the innovations come from outside, right? And they did that. So they built collaborations they built a website for everyone to, post their innovations, right? And many individuals and many competitors as well, they came forward to collaborate with the P&G, and they gave their innovations, and P&G was able to market those innovations and make business out of it. And they reached more than 50% by those collaborations and partnerships. Okay, so you have to build that the capacity to do the innovations. Right. So it's the team structure should be, you need to have an idea generator and a project manager and an executor and a team leader. Again, it's not hard and fast, but it's a typical, team structure for innovation. And now let's look at the approach. Right. So how do you know what are the processes, right, that you can use to come up with some innovations? Right? So depending on the type of innovation needed, select a right approach. So for example, let's say you want a radical innovation, right? So you decided that you want a radical innovation for whatever that product or service is. Now, when you say you want radical innovation, most often in most of the organizations, they say, no, do you have a reference architecture? Do you have a reference model? Or, so I would like to see what we are doing right now. Those kind of questions will come, right? I feel like, so if you want a radical innovation, the reference architectures, reference models does not serve the purpose. And if you start looking into what you are already doing, you won't get radical innovation at all. Right? So you need to have a clear vision. So what is that you're trying to accomplish? And think a new way of doing things. That's how you can get a radical innovation rather than looking at what we have, right? Or what the industry has, right? So if someone already has, that is not a radical one at all. Okay. So if you want to bring some incremental innovation, then you can look at your current state. Then you can, analyze what you have, and then you can come up with some incremental improvements. Right. So depending on what your strategy is, what type of innovation you want to bring, you have to choose the right approach. Otherwise, you end up in, getting a wrong innovation altogether. And probably, these are the three processes that you can think of for innovation. Again, these are not hard and fast. There may be many. So these are most common approaches that I had seen in the industry. So ethnography, right? So this is probably the oldest the technique. So ethnography means, so if you, let's say you want to change the shopping experience of a customer, right? So you have to start right from the beginning where the customer, like let's say for a, you are trying to change the customer experience in a brick and mortar shop, right? So then how a customer comes in, right? Whether they are coming in a car or a bike or whatever, right? So from there, you start and see how the customer enters the shop, right? And enters the store, and how they maneuver, browse through the products, everything. So from, end to end, you have to, understand how the customer is interacting with your business and see, the areas of improvement, and then you can implement those changes. So this is probably a very old technique, right? Ethnography. The latest one is the design thinking, right? So design thinking is to understand the customer or even involve the customer from the very beginning of the innovation. So usually we engage the customers at the fag end of the innovation cycle, but engaging the customer, in the early stages and shaping the innovations with the customer's input is what the design thinking is, right? So Scaled Agile came up with this double diamond, diagram or an approach. So wherein in the first diamond is to understand the problem, right? So we have various techniques like Gemba walk means, so you go and see, right? Actually, you go and see in the field, like in where the things are happening, not sitting in an office and or a research lab and trying to come up with something new, right? So you go and see and see what is happening, and then you define the problem, right, with the personas and empathy maps and all, and then you design the solution, right, with the you use techniques like a journey map, prototyping, story mapping, and all that, right? And then so all the innovations that you come up with should be feasible, viable, and desirable. Okay, so you can use this design thinking approach to come up with a new innovation, right? So I think if you are if you know agile methodologies, so most of the agile methodologies are using design thinking to come up with the new innovations. Okay, and then so we have another strategy called blue ocean strategy. What this means is, now, if you are, playing where your most of the competitors are, right? So there will be a bloodbath, right? So it's called a red ocean strategy, right? But if you're playing where you don't have any competition at all, right? So we have very less competitors, right? So then we call it as a blue ocean strategy. So we have to look for that new area or white space, we call it, right? So we have to look for that the white space, and then you have to play in that, that's called a blue ocean strategy. So in the blue ocean strategy, so we look at four aspects, right? Elimination, reduction, increase, and creation. So elimination means, so what you are eliminating. So what feature or what value proposition you are eliminating from the existing ones, right? So for example, Starbucks, right? So when they came up with their business model, so they eliminated that big restaurant type of coffee shops where people can sit in a very luxurious manner and all. So that they had eliminated. Reduction, right? So what you are reducing, right? The serving at the table, right? So they reduced that, and self-serve, they had introduced the self-serve, right? So what proposition you are increasing, right? So you're building an environment, right? So where the customer gets a feeling of a library and all, right? So not a coffee shop, right? So creation, what value, what new value, or so you can increase the, so like if you can reduce the price and make everyone to come to your shop, right? But that may defeat the purpose. So instead Starbucks increased the price, but they had increased the revenue, right? And by creating an environment, right, where everyone can sit like a library, and then they can chat, and so these so you are creating a new proposition. So what proposition you are creating? Okay, so these are some of the things that you can look at. So how you bring your new innovations, right? And depending, and where you can play where you don't have much competition. So, right? Now, usually when you want to bring some innovations, so you brainstorm new ideas, right? So when you are brainstorming, so you have to keep these rules in place, right? So defer judgment. So whenever someone proposes something, suddenly, someone criticizes that, right? So that will undermine the thinking process, and you won't get new ideas, right? And encourage wild ideas. So no matter what that idea is, try to collect all the ideas, when you're brainstorming, right? So don't stop any ideas at all, right? And then build on the ideas of others. Sometimes, someone has given something, and probably you can build upon that, right? So you can extend that, right? So you can come up with something on top of that, and always stay focused on the topic. So usually when brainstorming, there is a high chance that people will go in different directions, right? So there will be a facilitator usually in these brainstorming sessions. The role of a facilitator, it is to keep the group on focus, okay? And one conversation at a time. So that is, you don't allow multiple conversations at a time. And be visual. So as much as possible, be visual, and go for quantity. So try to collect all the ideas first, and then shortlist them, and you can select few ideas. But at the beginning, you have to encourage as many ideas as possible. Okay. All right. So the last one, last but not the least. So you have to measure your innovations, right? It's not like you're coming up with some innovations, and they may fail, right? So there is no point in that. So you have to measure, and there are several aspects that you can measure on, right? So one is the value metrics. So what is the value that you're getting out of this innovation? Is there any sales growth? Is there any profit growth? Right? Is there any customer satisfaction, right? So there are many things, of course, but so the value added is is a combination of many other aspects as well again. Okay, so first thing you have to look at is the value, what value this innovation is providing. And second one is you have to measure the performance, right? So how much sales growth you have seen from the existing customers, or how many new customers did we add to the business, or did we make any improvements in the processes, right? And then product performance or technology, did we bring any new technologies? So these are the aspects that we have to look at when you're doing the performance metrics. Then executive metrics, right? So did we have a balanced innovation product portfolio, right? So as I said, did we have radical, semi-radical, moderate, or incremental, all these. So we have right, proposition of this proportion of these innovations, right? And the effective project execution. So how you are executing the your projects, the innovation projects, and the quality of the innovation pipeline, right? So how better you are executing, and how well we are developing the products or services, and what is the value added by your partners. So these things, okay. And then you can look at from a resource perspective, right? So what is the commitment from your employees on the innovation, right? And are we acquiring the right talent to bring the innovations, right? And do we have supporting infrastructure, either physical labs, or the environment, or so whatever it is. So do we have that infrastructure to build the right innovations? And then the last but not the least, the innovation metrics. So what is the innovation cycle time, right? So how fast you are able to bring the innovations, and the number of innovations, right, per year or per month, whatever that you want to measure, right? And then how well the prototypes are turning into projects, and how well these projects are turning into products, right? How well we are able to maneuver through these through these various stages. And the efficiency of innovation, right? So how well you are able to, innovate, right? And the people involved, right? What type of people are involved in these innovations, right? Including the partners and, other parties, third parties as well. And how many innovations or how many ideas are being submitted every month. So these are the things that you can look into. Okay, so and then all in all, this is the innovation framework that I came up with, right? So with all these dimensions, right? So that any organization can come up with the right innovation and can roll out right innovations within their organizations. Okay, so here is my contact info. So if you want to reach me, you can take this contact info. Now I think there are a couple of questions. I will take these questions and we can wrap up this session. Okay, so let me say, like Ala has said, that can we say the approach area of in the innovation circle is about customer experience? Yes, everything is for the customer only, right? So we have to put the customer in front of this innovation. So everything that we do is for the customer only. Yes. Okay. And let me look at so where can we buy books? My books are in Amazon, so you can search by my name. So one is the TOGAF Simplified, and the other one is Architecting the Enterprise Transformations. So you can look for those books and feel free to buy. Okay. And how can blue ocean strategy work effectively in an enterprise competitive environment? So let's say, for instance, telecommunications. I don't know what you mean by enterprise competitive environment. So is it within the environment or with your competitors? I don't understand. So the basically what the blue ocean strategy is saying is, don't try to do what your competition is doing, right? What your competitors are doing. Do something different than your competitors, right? So it applies to every industry, be it telecom or banking or any industry. So don't try to do what your competitors are doing. Do something differently to give different value, different value proposition to the customer, right? So that you are creating a new market, new segment, or something new, right? So otherwise, if you are doing something what your competition is doing, there is nothing more you are providing to the industry, right? So that's what the blue ocean strategy says. So do something differently than your competitors. Okay, so those are the that's what those are the questions that we have. So anyone else has any questions, or if not, I think we can wrap up this webinar. Okay. So yeah, thank you for joining this webinar. And as we are recording this webinar will be put up in our YouTube channel, and we will mail you out the link to the presentation. And you can feel free to reach me if you have any questions. Okay. Yeah, thank you all for attending this webinar.
Thank you all.
Thank you.